So, there was a recent speech that made a really bold claim. For America to be great, faith isn't just helpful, it's mandatory. Today we're going to break down the arguments, the pretty surprising data, and the high-stakes political battle at the heart of this whole message. Let's dive in.
Okay, so this right here, this is the foundation for everything else. The entire speech is built on this one single idea. And notice the wording, the repetition of, you have to. It's not a suggestion, it's a command. Right from the get-go, faith is presented as an absolute necessity, not a personal choice. This isn't just an opener, it's the pillar holding the whole thing up.
And that leads us to the speaker's core argument, that a nation itself, the country, needs faith. So how do you make that connection? Let's take a look at how the speech tries to bridge that gap between someone's personal belief and the destiny of an entire country.
And here's where the framing is just so crucial. This isn't an argument about, your own personal salvation or finding a community. No, the speaker is making a much, much bigger claim that the greatness of the nation is directly tied to how religious its people are. Faith is presented as the very foundation. The argument is simple. Without God, national success is basically impossible.
Okay, so if faith is so essential for the nation, the next question is obvious. How are we doing? Well, the speaker argues that we're not just doing fine, we're in the middle of a massive comeback. But what's the proof for this religious revival?
So the evidence starts with these really broad, sweeping statements. He paints this picture of churches just filling up, of a comeback that's stronger than ever, something nobody has ever seen before. It's powerful language, for sure. But he doesn't just stop at descriptions. To try and anchor these big claims, the speaker uses a very specific and very unusual data point. He says that in 2025, yep, a year that hasn't happened yet, more Bibles were sold than at any time in the last 100 years. It's a pretty striking piece of evidence, forecasting a spiritual milestone.
Then the focus narrows in on one specific group, young people. The claim, as you can see here, is that young Americans are going to church at nearly double the rate they were just 4 years ago. This is presented as hard proof that the revival isn't just happening, it's actually being driven by the next generation.
Of course, every good story needs a conflict. So after setting up this big religious comeback, the speaker identifies the force that he believes is trying to stop it. Let's see exactly who this political opposition is supposed to be.
And the opposition is framed in very clear political terms. This isn't some vague cultural shift he's talking about. He's pointing to specific groups, the radical left and many Democrats, and claiming they're unhappy about this spiritual comeback. It turns a religious issue into a political fight.
And this is where the language used to describe the opposition gets really, really intense. He's talking about actions taken during the COVID era, and he compares his political opponents to dictators. Then he takes it even one step further, using the word Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, to describe how people who wanted to go to church were treated. That is incredibly charged rhetoric.
This slide really lays out the whole narrative being built here. It's a classic setup, right? A problem-solution framework. On one side, you have the alleged actions of the opposition, arresting people, acting like dictators, and on the other side, the speaker positions himself as the solution, the person who fixes things for the people who were treated very badly.
Now, it's not all just statistics and political attacks. To make his case feel more personal, the speaker weaves in a few anecdotes and highlights some of his key allies. These stories are meant to add a little emotional color and a sense of, insider authority.
So here's a key piece of evidence, and it comes from a pretty unexpected place. The speaker tells a story about a conversation with the king of Saudi Arabia, who he claims said America has gone from being dead to being the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's a powerful story that acts as a kind of external validation for this whole national comeback narrative.
And then he brings it closer to home with this more personal moment involving an ally, Mike Johnson. The speaker shares that Johnson sometimes asks him before a meal, "Sir, may we pray?" It's a really short anecdote, but it's used to quickly show you just how devout his ally is.
So what's the point of that story? Well, it's what this alliance represents to the speaker. He doesn't just say it's politically useful, he says he feels personally protected by his ally's faith. It's an interesting line that really blurs the line between a political partnership and a kind of spiritual guardianship.
So you take all of these arguments, the need for faith, the signs of a revival, the battle against its opponents, and you see it's all building towards one final provocative conclusion. Let's look at the question that's meant to tie this all together. And there it is, the entire speech, From the necessity of God to the battle against so-called enemies of faith, it all comes down to this one provocative question. It leaves the audience with a very stark choice, turning a speech into a clear call to action. It's a powerful ending, designed not just to inform you, but to persuade and to mobilize. And it leaves us with one final question to think about. Just how effective is rhetoric like this?